you. And I said, well, okay, you guys have a good day. And I took a picture of the front of their vehicle, and I took it up, and I called the dispatcher. I wasn't able to see the sheriff. They've got our courthouse and our sheriff's building surrounded with concrete barricades and chain-link fence with the FBI in there guarding it all. I was able to call dispatch, gave them the plate number, and I went back to the armory to find out what was going on, to tell my friend what I had found out, that the guys were not honest, and to tell him what they had told me. And there was a sheriff deputy and a local police officer there at the same time. While I was talking to him, the sheriff deputy got a phone call, and he said, oh, okay. And I said, what's going on? He says, well, he said, the two cars were undercover FBI, and so was the one that you stopped. They're undercover FBI, and we have to keep this a secret. And I said, why is this a secret? Well, they're here doing things, and it's top secret. And I said, okay. And so I kept that a secret until I was at a public meeting where our local high school gymnasium was being used by Judge Grasty, and there was a tremendous law enforcement presence there, and I had a chance to speak out, so I raised my hand and I got the microphone, and I explained to him who I was and what I'd done, and I told him exactly what had happened that day, and then I said, where do you think the fear is coming from? Where do you think the fear is coming from? These are FBI people running around, harassing our people, scaring our women and children. This is wrong. After that, before I left, Judge Grasty came up and had an argument with me, telling me that I needed to back off. One of the sheriff deputies out front asked me if I could tell him what happened. I told him, and he says, we have told them and told them and told them to knock that crap off. He says, I will talk to him again. So that confirmed that it was FBI people doing this.
Were you allowed to tell the whole story in that meeting at night, or did they escort you out, or what happened?
I had the microphone.
Okay, good, all right.
There wasn't nobody in that building that could have got it from me, and I said it.
After you said that, went outside, the sheriff deputy said, all right, I'm going to follow up on this. What happened after that?
The next morning, Judge Grasty called me up there to his office. I went up there and I said, Steve, this is ridiculous. You're telling people you're spending $60,000 to $70,000, $80,000 a day on security. And I said, that's our tax dollars going to waste. There is no threat. The people at the refuge are not threatening anyone. This is out of hand. This cannot be happening. There's people sneaking around our town scaring people. It's wrong. I said, what would have happened if I would have smacked one of them guys when they were being dishonest with me? And he raised his hands up and he said, wait a minute, Chris, your perception is all out of whack. Your perception is all wrong. You may have been dangerous at one point in your life, but you're an old man. You have absolutely nothing. And it's none of your business what's going on at the armory. You have no right to follow anybody in our community. You have no right to question anybody in our community. And it's none of your business what's going on in the armory. And he has never in his life had guts enough to talk to me like that. But he had two deputies on one side of me, one on the other side, and one behind him.
Wow.
As much as I'm here right now, I know he was trying to bait me to get me out of the equation. He kept telling I had no business meddling with this, and he's the one that's supposed to be taking care of this, and that I had no business. He said that my perception was all wrong. I needed to just go home and be an old man and let everybody else take care of it. And I looked at him and I said, have you got a piece of paper? And he said, yeah. And I looked at the date and I wrote the date on it. And I put, I, Chris Allen Briels, do hereby resign my position as Harnett County Fire Marshal. And I signed it. And I stood up and I said, you have shown your true colors and my perception is exactly where it belongs. Goodbye.
What did he say then?
He didn't say anything because I didn't give him a chance. I turned around and I walked off.
What has happened since then, to you personally?
Well, my personal life is gone because as soon as I spoke in front of a microphone, now I'm doing radio shows and stuff like that. I'm still trying to find the truth, still trying to find out what is at the bottom of all of this. Out there at the Hammond ranches, there's billions of dollars of uranium and gold and minerals out. It goes way back into the Clinton administration.
Yes, it does. How are your neighbors treating you now?
My neighbors have known me forever. and my neighbors treat me fine. Some of the people that I thought were my friends, I saw one in the store the other day. I said, "Hey, how you doing?" And she said, "You're a bad man." And I said, "You really think so?" And she said, "Yeah, I think you're a bad man." And I said, "Well, I'm sorry you feel that way. I hope you have a good day."
Wow.
It's kind of torn our community up.
Yeah, and that does hurt. It does hurt, Chris. Believe me, I never went through that particular situation, but I've been through this similar thing myself as a pastor and a man trying to live in conviction. Some people are not going to like you. But, you cannot stand for anything without standing against something. Yeah, that's just all there is to it. So since this happened, you resigned. You've been on, I'm sure, with the press, on different talk shows. What do you see changing out there now? What's going on? I mean, I know that we know what happened with the roadblock. We know that Lavoie, in my opinion, from what I've seen, was murdered. I was on the site, but I believe he was totally murdered. What's happened since then?
Well, the community is more divided, and there's actually more resources here in town than were in town before. Ammon Bundy is incarcerated. To my knowledge, there were only 4 people left out at the refuge. There should be no threat left here. But the FBI and the state police and everybody, they've ramped up. There's a tremendous law enforcement presence here in our little tiny town.
Do you know anyone who was in on this roadblock, this ambush? Did you know any of the law enforcement officers that were there?
No, sir.
Okay. Because I've had stories, some of them were not really law enforcement, they were actually hired hitmen. Now, I don't know that. That's just what's coming through into the grapevine, so to speak.
I think it was a failed assassination attempt. I think that they were trying to assassinate Lavoie and the people in the pickup with him. I think if he wouldn't have got out of the pickup and ran in the snow, that they would have killed everybody in the pickup. He was shot in the side. He reached down to hold his wound, and he was shot multiple times. There's even a video on there that shows an officer standing down on the street.
Yes, it does.
Laying dead and had his hands in the air and his hand moved a little bit. He turned around and shot him some more. To me, that is not a justifiable act.
No, it is not.
Unjustifiable. It is horrendous. It is the worst crime imaginable. And that man left 10 kids and a wife.
And since that happened, how are the people reacting to all this? What's going on in the community?
Oh, there are a lot of people in the community that did not like that to happen. They didn't want bloodshed. They couldn't believe that something like that could happen in our little area. But it did happen. And so it has created a tremendous amount of stress on people. No one knows how to deal with these types of situations. No one's ever really been through this, or very few people ever have. So we've got normal people that are trying to react to an abnormal situation.
Yes.
There have been protests. There's been people speaking out. Since that time, ranchers have been harassed while feeding their cows.
Harassed by who?
By the FBI.
So they actually drive by and say things or do things or what?
Right. Yes, they have.
They've actually got out of the car and done things?
Yes, there was one man that was knocked to the ground, and they threatened to kick him in the groin if he didn't shut his mouth.
About what?
About the travesties that are going on and the BLM takeovers, those types of things. The BLM, if you look on Dun and Bradstreet, everybody that's got a computer can go and look at Dun and Bradstreet.
Yes.
And you find out that the BLM is a private corporation.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Well, to tell you the truth, you find this out too. All government agencies are private corporations, IRS, all the rest of them. But nonetheless, are you seeing people coming in to help the Bundys? What do you think will happen when people do come in? Tell me what you see on that.
Well, there's more of a military presence here. It appears that they're gearing up for a big battle.
Has the National Guard been called out or anything?
I haven't seen. I had heard that they had, but I can't speak to that because I have not seen it.
But you're seeing a lot more feds, a lot more state. Are they bringing in other law enforcement, like local deputies from other counties in also?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes. State policemen. There were multiple sheriff deputies from other counties.
What do you think would happen if a bunch of guys got together and went up there and said, we're going to stop this?
Well, it depends on how big the bunch was.
Well, I don't know how many would show up, but let's just say a couple 300 show up. What would happen?
Oh, they would probably be, gosh, I don't know. I would hate to think. I would think that a large enough presence would make people use their brains instead of their testosterone. and turn and walk away and let this situation die down and get to the bottom of what's going on. We still have 2 people incarcerated in federal prison that do not belong there.
I agree.
Unjustly, unconstitutionally.
Immorally. That's just immoral. Let's just get the Constitution. It was immoral. It was wrong. Period.
Exactly. It's either right or it's wrong. And I don't care what religion you are. I don't care where you were raised. I think that every person has inside them what they know is either right or wrong.
Yes.
And if it's wrong, you should not be doing it. And if it's right, you should stand up for it.
When I don't know what to say, the answer is, I know a lot of people just like pack up and go to Oregon, and I'm not against that. But why? What are you going to do when you get there? That's my question is, what would you do when you got there? Now, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying, what are you going to do when you get there? You tell everybody that it's a militarized camp now, and if you go up there armed to the teeth and cross into the county, they're going to consider you an invading army, so to speak. What are you going to do when you get there? You going to try to talk to the sheriff? No, it won't work. How about the judge? It won't work. How about the state police? It won't work. How about the... No, it won't work. They're all on the other side now. So what are you going to do? That's a question folks got to ask yourself. We can't just go off half-cocked and charge off and do something. It could lead to a lot worse than what it is right now. Go ahead, Chris.
They're all hiding. I mean, the sheriff hasn't been out in public for quite some time. I've known him for a long time, and I can't even go and talk to him. Normally, on search and rescue and stuff, I've been allowed to just walk into the sheriff's office at any time. I'm not allowed to speak to him.
Now you're on the other side, so to speak. They've marked you as a hostile individual now, I suppose. And it's divided the community, and it's caused you to lose people that you thought you could trust. But I would also like to think it would cause you to bond closer to those who are still standing for the right, too.
And you're 100% correct. You know, when I was a fire chief for all those years and ran the ambulance, I got to know a lot of people. I've had a lot of support from people